ladies and gentlemen of the audience, to our first live recording as a rebuttal to the numerous allegations made by Bar Calvin Cornelius III against our guests, Manuel Fernando Matthews and Errol Chas Thomas. Before we go into the background surrounding these allegations, I would like to make it clear, to give a bit more information on who and what the sovereign state of Budo entails and what it means for the local and national colored community in the sovereign state. Now, exactly 2 years to the day, 24th of September 2017, the Western Province, which is basically the greater part of South Africa, portion of it, the northern, or rather the western border, up until Southwest Africa, Namibia, including the northern border up until Botswana, and the eastern border, which is formed by the Fish River. That constitutes the sovereign state of Budo. Now, having seceded from South Africa on the 24th of September 2017, the sovereign state of Budo aims to implement a policy of self-determination rather than being a politically dominating force of corruption and coercion. King Cornelius has already clearly stated that he has no intention of controlling the resources, but seeks the abundance for all people within the sovereign state of Budo, and that all citizens are free to self-determination, governed only by the oath of allegiance to the state and abiding by the rule of law. The Royal House of the Khoisan Nation is primarily engaged with custodianship and protection of the broader environment, both human and natural, in which the nation can achieve the greatest potential. Now, the King has clearly and humbly expressed his deep knowledge regarding the abundance of human and natural resources within the sovereign state of Budo. He is well aware that the current resources are currently and historically mismanaged and diverted, resulting in as half as much of South Africa's population living in abject poverty and hopelessness, in the relentless fear of their lives and struggling daily with survival under the current political regime. It is the intention of the sovereign state of Budo to restore the nation to a state of dignity and send a beacon of hope and opportunity to those who are impoverished and suffering, to overhaul the education system in a way that teaches compassion, balance, practical life skills, whilst simultaneously eradicating the lies, manipulations, fabrications and misrepresentation from history. The sovereign state of Budo intends to provide a safe platform on which all citizens can realize their fullest potential and to live in a fair, peaceful and sustainable, justifiable nation. Now, these are the ideals and the goals for the sovereign state of Budo. Now, our two guests has been, dare I say it, from the very beginning, have been champions of this cause and has walked the distance and have supported Bar Calvin Cornelius from the inception of the sovereign state of Budo. Am I correct? Now, let's go into the details of these allegations. It stems from a source or sources unknown, wherein our two guests here are accused of conspiring to assassinate the Khoisan king, Bar Calvin Cornelius III. And following these allegations, the king immediately released a statement via voice note on a social media platform, wherein he proceeded then to summarily suspend our guests from all sovereign state of Budo activities pending an investigation. Following this voice note, he then convened a public meeting on the 14th of September 2017, sorry, 2019, at the Rafa Church in Els River. Now, during the course of these proceedings, the king then proceeded to vaguely reference comments to a person or persons unknown who allegedly act in direct opposition to his goals and objectives. His speech was, as is now customary, it was filled with platitudes and cliches, and literally had no clear indication of any progress in terms of the development of the sovereign state of Budo. He went so far as to renege on his previous acknowledgement that Saccra constitutes the sovereign state of Budo's defense force, with him as the commander-in-chief. He now advocates that Saccra is not the nation's defense force, and that Saccra is a South African institution. And to exacerbate an already volatile situation, Kubar Cornelius continued to make veiled and vague references to alleged assassination plots against him and his family. Now, today we are here to set the record straight and inform you, it's a live audience, but also as witnesses. Joining me is Lieutenant General Chas Thomas and Defence Force Sergeant Major Manuel Fernando Matthews. Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Now, for the benefit of our audience and the broader community out there, Warrant Officer Matthews, you boast of an incredible military career as a career military commissioned and non-commissioned officer. Would you care to explain to us, give us a little bit of background history in your military career, and then just to give us an indication at which point, where and when did you meet the man Calvin Cornelius, so that we have a better picture of his delegated steps.
Thank you, Steve. Well, Steve, for me it's an honor to be here, and thank you for inviting me to state my case according to the allegation. Well, tell you the honest truth, my military career started in 1979 on the age of 15. And I even became a father on the age of 15. And I became even a corporal on the age of 15. So, since 1979, I was trained in 1SSCC battalion. And up until I worked in the battalion up until 1983. 1983, I went to exile, where I joined the Pontuisis. There, I stayed since 1983 up until 1993, 28th of March 1993. And when I came back, I was part of the integration from the NK soldiers and APLA soldiers to integrate into the National Defence Force, but that time it was called Saccra. And yes, for me, it was a great job to do. And from there I was then deployed to 118 battalion where I became the RSM leader. But while I was for 6 years in Els Ras, 118 battalion. In that 6 years, I realized, and what I saw in the news, that the colored soldier was busy asking what about them? Why are they not integrated into the National Defence Force? And like I said, at that time it is the SSCC, South African Cape Corps. And every time when I ask the question, why can't they? what is wrong with it? Because the TVC state was integrated, even Saccra themselves was reintegrated into the National Defence Force, and they did get their packages. It's still working in the National Defence Force. Same with the TVC. MK got a lump sum because China didn't give money for them, APLA got, but the SSCC soldiers never received anything. And then I realized in 2001, I'm going to get out of the National Defence Force. And in 2001, I left the National Defence Force just a year before, just a year after the Deputy Minister Kerry left the National Defence Force. So, while I was at home, I couldn't attend any meetings or groups because of the law that we fall under when we leave the military. I had to wait for 14 years to raise my voice according to what is busy happening with the SCCC soldier. In 2015, my 14 years was over and I started to engage. I met Ronald Clydes through where I fixed his laptop, and I found on his laptop a lot of videos with, I don't know what is that organization called, but it's also what's to do with soldiers. But it's called KK something, and I call it KK. So when I engaged with him, I asked him, can you get all the soldiers back? And I'll show you how we go about by talking integration with the government of the day for the SSCC soldiers. And he said, yes, you can, and we started the SSCC brigade. But the SSCC brigade was started to get all the colored soldiers, even those that sleeps in the gutters today, under bridges. And according to me, they are heroes. They defended this country, and I think it's unfair. On that time I also thought it was unfair what was happening to them. Not being included in decision making, not being included in the military or the defense force, because even MK Apla never defended any country. They fought a country. Or they never fought a country, let me say it that way. So for me it was unfair what happening to the colored soldiers. And we started the SCCC brigade, our first meeting was with the Deputy Minister of Defense, Kevin. And then we had several meetings with him up until it was decided he must form the SSCC MBA. But all the, like they called us, the splinter groups had to pull together, that is SSCC, under one roof, so that we can have an election where we have a National Executive Council, so that we can get our men, so that we can, with the thinking of being integrated into the National Defence Force. Because according to me, a military veteran is somebody that fulfilled his duties, and now he left the organization, but still being a soldier. That's a military veteran. And these soldiers never received anything. They did everything that they wanted. And one day, I think it was by, this is how Calvin heard about the SSCC brigade. And we met at, I think in Wellington, in Paul, at a meeting. But because the SSCC brigade's leadership was invited to that meeting. And this is where I met Calvin. And then when he spoke, he said for 19 years, he's fighting alone. And on that day I told him, you are not alone anymore. Because, like I used to say, he said, and since that day, we were together. But on that day was discussed the march of the 5th of December 2015. And on the day of the march of the 2015, on December 1, when we went to Cape Town and had that march, after the march, he came to me and asked me, listen, don't you want to be my advisor in the Royal House of the Khoisan on military matters? I said, listen here, in this organization that I belong to, we work in 2 sectors. There's a general that is next to me. If you can ask the general, if he says yes, I will say yes. So the general said, no, it's okay. And then we became his military advisors in the Khoisan House. And since that day, Ronald felt like bus thinks something is not right and he just pulled back. He didn't pull out. Pulled back but watching. And I was took out all the time up until certain stuff happened. I don't want to go in detail with that.
Thank you, Warren Officer. So that is how you met Calvin Cornelius. Lieutenant General Thomas, you have supported King Bama Cornelius since its inception. But these allegations, what does it mean for you going forward? And to your knowledge, is this the first time that an allegation of this nature has been leveled against you?
Yeah. Where do I start? This is not the first time, it's the second time. Actually, a year ago, me and the white officer were blamed as being NIA agents. NIA meaning National Intelligence Agency or something, meaning that we are government spies. We overlooked that and carried on. We still stood next to the Kugar. We still supported him. I personally supported him. I stood up for him. In the process, I met lots of enemies. I lost lots of people that used to be in my circle due to this. But still I carried on because I believed in the cause. Okay? The Women's League, luckily, the women that I work with in the Women's League, believe me, they know what type of person I am, so that is not a problem. The Western Cape Missing Persons Unit is a problem because you have to have police clearance. Me being, what's it? Sorry, I'm nervous. Me being a possible assassinator, sort of make it difficult for me to work for missing children, missing people, because that is now
Questions of credibility.
It's my credibility. With the result that I had to stand back, I'm not involved in missing persons unit. It's very painful for me because I am a founder member. That was my heartbeat to help. I've always been a community activist. And becoming this, how I became part of the SSTC brigade. Because I've been a community activist, I started by invitation, started attending the meetings. And the vision at that time was to go find each and every soldier, to restore their dignity, and to help them come out of wherever they are. And that jumped in my spirit, and I went for it full out. That was 3 years ago, and I'm still with SACC. We're not brigade anymore. We are now the First Nation. And yeah, that's about it.
You also serve on various community programs. As you have already indicated, most notably the Missing Persons Police Forum, but also you were instrumental in the creation of the Khoisan Women's League with branches practically countrywide. What impact do you think these latest allegations leveled against you will have on your role in these programs?
My personal feeling is that my credibility will definitely be questioned. And I don't feel that confident, seeing that I know that I'm innocent. And the other thing is that I haven't even been called in, I haven't been in a hearing, I've been nothing, I've just been judged.
That was going to bring me to my next question. He has proceeded after these, the voice note and the video, he has proceeded to say, following the suspension, that an investigation will be used. My next question would be, have there been any indication from the King, from the Royal House, as to any progress regarding this alleged investigation? Were you called in for a disciplinary inquiry that led to a suspension? Was there any physical interaction or contact between the two of you with the King regarding these alleged allegations?
Even up to date, absolutely nothing. From my side, I sent an email to Jenny Harrison, to her email address, welcoming the investigation. Investigation is in 100-hour commission. I never received an acknowledgement that they received it, nothing. They haven't contacted me at all, up to the time, nothing. The only thing that I am aware of was the audio that he made and video that was made. But I was never called in. I was never asked about it. I never had even had a chance to bring my side of whatever transpired. Nothing at all from the king order.
Thank you, Lieutenant General. Let's recap quickly. Our guests were suspended. They were accused of plotting assassination. They were informed via a voice note on a social media platform that an investigation will be launched. But in my experience, coming from the corporate world, if an allegation is leveled against you, a disciplinary inquiry has to be convened. And in that disciplinary inquiry, suspension may be the possible outcome. And during your suspension period, an investigation is launched. But there has to be an interaction to tell you, based on these allegations, this has been the conclusion of the disciplinary hearing committee. Now, what I guess is saying there has been no physical interaction, no personal interaction between Kubao, Calvin Cornelius and themselves as to the reasons why they were being suspended. Remember, we stated that these allegations stem from a source or sources unknown, which reached the king, and he acted on innuendo and unsubstantiated rumors. And following these rumors, he then perpetuated the situation to suspend, accuse them of these allegations, and then publicly confirm these allegations. Now, to me, as you say you're a king, which means you're a leader, your actions was both reckless and irresponsible. It is reckless and irresponsible. It's not toward nation building. It is about division. Now, this brings me to my next question, which is to the warrant officer. Now, numerous instances in the past, King Calvin Cornelius has disavowed or disrespected the institution of SACC, Regimental Association. I say it specifically like that to raise the difference. The institution as itself, SACC is the soldier, is the Khoisan colored soldier in all wars, in all military conflicts, whether it be the latest in the apartheid era and both First and Second World War. SACC, the RA, the Regimental Association. Ladies and gentlemen, you must remember, this war, with its accompanying property assets, is a memorial institution. It's a memorial. It is recognized worldwide. Now, Calvin Cornelius has disavowed and said it doesn't exist because it's South Africa. My question to the warrant officer is this. The king has once again disavowed Saccra as a military institution and defense force of sovereign states. For the benefit of audience and viewers out there, can you please elaborate and explain its historical significance as a military institution?
Steven asked the question, it's a good question, because everyone wants to enclose to the colored soldier or the colored history of the soldier. It's been, they just rather push it aside, or like now it's my own brother, they want to disallow history. And it is history where even, like Calvin used to tell me, he used to be a traffic officer. Now, where was he a traffic? In the sovereign state of Voodoo or in the RSA? Understand what I'm trying to say? He was a South African trafficker. He have a SWAT diploma. It's not from the sovereign state of Buddha. It's from RSA, South Africa. Now SACC was not in the sovereign state of Buddha. It was in the RSA. So it must be kept in his history. Because that is his history. He told me about his traffic office, SWAT diploma. My history is being a soldier in the SACC, in the RSA. But if you want to say that the sovereign state of Buddha is not going to allow RSA soldiers in the sovereign state of Buddha, now what soldiers does he have? Because if you succeed from the RSA, stuff of the RSA stays in the sovereign state of Buddha. Even the soldiers that is colored is going to stay in the sovereign state of Buddha. You can't say they are dead. They are alive because they are soldiers. That's why we have the fallen heroes. And our fallen heroes, it is those people that started SACC, regimental, and so forth. We are walking in their footsteps. We are the First and Second World War veterans, and today they are the fallen heroes. We are the third generation. In the same footsteps, we fought the Angolan War, the Bush War. We fought them. And very hurtfully for me as a soldier, every time when I see pictures of Osakati, Ruakana, you only see the white man. You don't see us. And then I realized even the white men, they degraded the word sien sonder om gesien te worden. So every time when the cameras come, we must go hide, sien sonder om gesien te worden. But they stand in the front. So we as the colored soldier, or the point soldier even, are not being recognized. And what is worrying me is by our own people. So, if our own people even don't want to recognize us, a king like Calvin, that states that a historical building like this is not in void, then the castle is not in void. Then even the castle is not in void. Even the parliament is not in void, where he wants to go and sit. If you not in void this Saccra, you not in void the parliament, the castle, and that is places where he wants to go. And there's a lot of stuff of Saccra. Not in it just here, Eastern Cape, even in the Northern Cape. So what do you tell me? Now you are telling me, actually, in not so many words, the sovereign state of Buddha doesn't exist. If you just bear this.
Thank you, Warren. Now, let us just, in conclusion then, clearly the king has acted reckless and irresponsible in this regard, with little or no consideration as to the damage it may cause to the credibility and character of our guests. Now, would I be correct in the statement stating that you have never withdraw your support from him? Even amidst these allegations, you still have his back, or still support him and the sovereign state of Buddha and its people. Am I correct?
Still do.
We still do, as you can see.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, before we would go offline, I have allocated 10 minutes to the audience for any questions that you, as the audience, may have towards our guests. So, I open it to our questions. Yes.
My question is directed at the warrant officer. What do you call it? What did he do to you? He just bar you and suspend you. Is it maybe because you know too much about him, that is scared that you won't let out? Because there is some people that knows the true identity of Calvin, aka Cornelia. So is it because maybe you know too much, that he's maybe scared that you will say something? Because you only eliminate the enemy once you know he knows too much about you. Thank you.
What's your name again?
It's Kala.
Estelle, to tell you the honest truth, that is not the case. And I don't think even it's Calvin himself. It's a source. It is only that Calvin did make an audio statement about it. You understand what I'm trying to say? And then he suspended me because of the source, what the source told him, and he made a statement to say that he suspended me. That is the thing. But you said that's not the case on this moment, because if it was that way.
Quite some soldier came and he said, that is my identity. So what you actually want to say that Calvin took the identity of the Khoisan soldier away? Or does he just say that it's now in the God? I thank you.
Lieutenant General Boyle will tell you today something that even Calvin himself, I think even the one I'm sitting here today, he don't even know why he did say that Saccra is no more. Because if he did know the history of Saccra, he wouldn't have uttered that word in the first place. So, Saccra, you must understand, it is not Calvin that decides who is SACC. It's SACC who decides who's SACC. And that's you, and some of our soldiers who are sitting around here, that's carrying that force number. We are a force, and we're proud of it. And whatever they want to call us, the SACC will always be in our hearts and in our minds. So, my message to you is, my dear brother and friend, like stated in the Saccra report, that we are the army of the people. That is called Khoisan or Kala. Nobody can take that away from you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard much about the allegations. We've now established that these allegations are inaccurate, irresponsible, and reckless. So there's no truth. Our guest had the opportunity to air their side of it. The warrant officer has just referred to a document which Calvin Cornelius never mentioned in any of his public addresses. And I remember watching the video, his latest video, where he says categorically, he says to his audience, none of you have done what God has allowed me to do. He cannot dispute this, because this, I quote him verbatim, none of you have done what God has allowed me to do this. Now I want to tell you, that is factually untrue, incorrect. He is not the owner. In fact, the warrant officer references GEXA. GEXA is the abbreviation for the Greater Aboriginal Council, Community Council of South Africa, which is headed by a paramount chief in its own right, Larry Barry. And Larry Barry is also the president of the political party Finland. And GEXA, Larry Barry, together with our two guests, Lieutenant General Abel Thomas, Warrant Officer Manuel Fernando Matthews, and another gentleman, General Trump, who signed this document into legislation. It is received and acknowledged by the government of South Africa as a legal, binding, irrevocable document. It cannot be revoked. Irrevocable. on the 21st of September 2017. Now I have only recently learned that the secession which Calvin Cornelius propagates also happened officially on the 21st of September. Is that a coincidence? A strange and incredulous coincidence at best, because which tells me one thing: the work has been done. So Calvin Cornelius wasn't the only one that spearheaded this. Our two guests here are architects of the sovereign state of Israel. They have not received acknowledgement for it. To this day, I haven't heard King Calvin Cornelius publicly thank the individuals who started it. Never thanked Manuel van England Matthews, Adolf Chas Thomas, General Trump, Larry Barry. Never gave acknowledgement. It is me, I'm governor, I did this, I did that. That's not leadership. That's not leadership. That is dictatorship, which is contrary to the manifesto of the sovereign state of Israel, which promotes self-determination. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you from your lips to God's ears. Good day.